guys, in today's video we're going to be putting the gearbox in. We're also going to be obviously installing the clutch as well, and we're going to be explaining how the clutch works and the actions of what happens when you put your foot on the clutch pedal. So this video is a bit long, so without further ado guys, let's get straight into it. Straight in, mate. Alright guys, so we're going to, and I just want to get out of the way before I start. I've got hay fever at the moment. It's pretty chronic, so I probably sound a bit maybe sick or a bit different on camera. But anyway, so I've been blessed by my dad to have, and my mum, to have the next whole week off work. As some of you may know, I work with my dad. I'm an apprentice for my dad. So it's been a huge blessing that he's been able to give to me to work on my car for a whole week to try and smash it out and get it finished. So I've come up with a plan to try and tackle things day by day so that I'm not kind of running in loosely and not knowing what I'm doing. So I've written out a plan for what I want to finish on certain days. So today we're going to get the gearbox in. So I don't have a lot of money, so I wouldn't recommend doing this to your flywheel. But what we're going to do is we're going to use some emery cloth, and we're going to go over, this is the flywheel that had come out of my car before when we took it apart. So usually you would take this to a machine shop and they would face it. They would take these locating dowels out and they would face this. And then if you were reusing the clutch, you'd probably get a new one of these as well. This is a pressure plate. But when we took mine apart, there's still like plenty of meat on the clutch, so I'm going to reuse this. I'm not going to worry about replacing it yet. This will flog out because this won't supply, sorry, let me rephrase that. This won't be enough clamping force for my power goals that I want to get to, but this will do for now. So we're going to reuse it. There's no point throwing it away. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some emery cloth. Excuse my next door neighbour. They had conveniently got a lawnmower to come and cut the lawn while I'm recording. So sorry about that. But I can't waste time. So we're going to get some emery cloth. We're just going to go over the surface of the flywheel here. Now when we go around, we kind of just want to do it in the motion of rotation, right? So we don't want to go this way, we want to go that way, right? So we're just gonna work our way around. So yeah, as I said, I wouldn't recommend you doing this to your flywheel, but if you don't have much money, this is a great option for you to do it. It's not going to make everything great, but it's just going to take a very small amount of shit off the face of your flywheel. But yeah, as I said, I'm an apprentice. I don't earn that much money at all. So for me, I'm skimping out and cheaping out on this for now. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a comparison. So see if I can get this to pick up on the camera. So that's part of the side that I've just gone over with an emery cloth. And this is without. So you can kind of see the difference. So definitely if you're on a budget, this is a good way to do it. But ideally you will want to get these machined. Or you'd get a new one of these, but you'd get that machine, the flywheel. So we have to push out part of this throwout bearing. Now I didn't know that these you had to press it out, but you do. So what we're going to do is, you can see in here we've got a lip here, and then just on the other side you've got the lip of the actual bearing. Let's see if I can get the camera to show you. You can see those two lips. One's shinier than the other. And this one sticks out further than the other one. So this is the lip that we need to press. So, as you can see behind me, this is part of the press that we have. So I've set it up, and we've got loads of these little bits and pieces that we use that my dad's just accumulated over the time. Now this actually fits perfectly on the corresponding lip, right? So we're going to lay that in there. So that's what you want to do. So you want to find something that's going to be the same, exactly the same, like diameter, and then we're going to get a solid piece. We're going to slide it over the top. Now you'll start to see this bit will start to move down. So I'm going to start to pump the press here. Just move it back to get it centralized. So I'll start to pump the press, and once it's grabbed now, so you start to see it push that center unit out. That's the bit that the fork catches on. Now I think I've caught part of the lip of the actual bearing, so I'm going to have to back this off and pull this out and have a look what's going on. And indeed that's what's happened. So now I need to find something that's just a little bit smaller in diameter than this. So let's have a look. Alright, so I had a bit of a look around, couldn't find anything that was smaller than what we're using in the press. So if you got something that's smaller than the press, go ahead and use that. Now I've got some soft jaws here. I've got them locked onto the bit that we want to keep, which is the bit that the fork goes onto. I should show you this. It's the bit that this goes onto. So we're going to get a screwdriver, and I've got a hammer here. So we're just going to get it on this side. We're just going to slowly whack it off. So you can do it either way. Guys, I just want to let you know I'm holding a bearing right next to the microphone to try and pick this sound up for you. So I'm going to actually spin this bit. So listen to this. Right, so that is the sound of a bearing that's shagged itself. Shit, throw away. Right, now we've got our new bearing here, and I'm going to rotate the bearing, and I want you guys to listen. You can't hear anything, which is good. So that's new, old, shit, good. That's it. You just press it in with the wire.
That's it. And then fill it up with grease. Fill up with grease in there.
Yeah, I don't have grease in here. Unless you know where it is. I don't know where grease is.
Wipe the shit out of there, out of the groove.
Yeah.
Put a little bit of grease on the heel there.
Yeah.
A little bit on there, a little bit on there, not much.
Yeah.
And then wipe grease in there when it slides on.
Yeah.
Take the excess off.
Yeah. Alright guys, so we're underneath the car at the moment. We're about to put the throw-out bearing in with a fork. So now the spigot bearing that's in the end of the crankshaft, we're leaving that in there because it's I don't know, Dad just told me to leave it in there. So I can't tell you why we are, but whatever. So what we're going to do, we're going to get some grease here. Alright. And we're just going to put a bit on this spline. And we don't want too much because then it will just throw out and go all over the clutch plate, which we don't want. But just a bit. And we're going to get some more grease. We're going to go inside the throw-out bearing. Just going to put a bit of grease in here. It's got a groove in here that we want to get some grease into. There's a groove just up in there. The camera's not registering right now. Sorry about that. There's a groove like halfway in this throw-out bearing, so that we want to just get some grease in there. Alright. So now we're going to get our fork here. We're going to put some grease in between there, and some in there on that inside where that ball is. And what we might actually do is we'll put it on the ball itself where it's going to be rotating and pivoting. Well, no, it's not going to rotate, sorry, it's going to pivot on it. So we'll just put a bit of grease on there. Just because these have those two metal pins here that are going to get in the way, so we'll put it on the ball. Just makes it easier. So we're just wiping the excess off to keep it clean. I have washed this out prior. I've washed the bell housing out. Probably looks a bit clean on the camera. It's because I've washed it. So now we're going to get our throwout bearing. Now this is the side. It's got like this lip on the outer surface here, and they're the bits that push on the forks. I wasn't sure which way it goes because it's a bit hard to tell, but that's the back of it, and they look kind of similar. So if you're not sure, you're going to have to double check with where you got yours from, just to make sure that you're putting it in the right way. I can see what we're doing this up down. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to get these pins lined up. So you can see that these pins here are lined up on this plate, or on this tongue that's sticking out. So we're going to put our thumb on the back of this bit here. We're going to get our fork, right, and we're going to come in on a slight angle, okay, and then we're going to push them together, and we want these little metal tabs here to lock in. You'll see in a moment. It can be quite difficult doing it upside down. Right. So that's in. If y'all can see that. Alright guys, so now that we've got this this done and we've got our fork lubed up, we're gonna get our throwout bearing. I'm gonna slide it in. I'm gonna slide it over. Yeah. Alright, so we're just checking just to make sure that it fits nice and snug. There's no slop or play in it at all. So now we're gonna get our fork here. I'm gonna slide this through the hole, and then we're gonna do what I just showed you to do, but we're gonna do it in here. The reason you have to do it in here is because if you try and do it outside, you won't be able to get the fork on with this onto the shaft. It won't work. So this is pretty awkward. Oh, feck. So awkward trying to do it on the floor. Alright, so you all heard that click. We're just going to check this side. Make sure the spring's set, or that metal tag is set. And now we're going to push. Now if you remember what was on the other side of this, we had those two metal tags or pins that went past through here. So we've got to clip this onto that ball. Like that. So y'all, if you heard that, so now we've got our throwout bearing, which works nice. So we've got our clutch reservoir up the top, which is filled with hydraulic fluid. We've got a line down here to the clutch slave cylinder, right? So in here it's kind of like a piston. So when you put your foot on the clutch, you're pumping that hydraulic fluid through this line into this unit. The other end of that piston is connected to this bit here, and that lines up with here once it's bolted in, right? So it lines up with that hole, pushes on this hole. So once it's pushed in, this is the action. So that's a push, right? So it pushes that out, pushes the throw out bearing or the release bearing out, right? Which disengages your clutch. And I'll explain how that works later on. We'll get that up on the bench, and I'll give you an explanation as to how it works. It's going to be pretty hard because you need quite a lot of force to push those metal fingers down. But we'll give it a go at trying to explain to you how to do that. So let's skip on over to the workbench, and I'll explain how the rest of this clutch system works. Ah, that orange juice is good. Love me some OJ. Some OJ. Okay, so now I'm going to try to explain this to you as clearly as possible. So here we have our flywheel, right? So this bolts up onto the back of the crankshaft. Okay, this surface here is what the clutch makes contact on, like that, right? And then the other surface goes into the pressure plate, right? Or the clutch plate, or you'd call it the pressure plate. So the way that this works is it's got these fingers here, right? So that throw out bearing that we just looked at, and I told you the surface, that edge that pushes on the fingers. So these are the fingers. So if you imagine the gearbox is here, okay? Actually, I'll turn it this way so it makes sense to you. So the gearbox is over here. Okay, the back of the car is over there, the front of the car is over here. So when we push our foot on the clutch, remember that throw out bearing moves towards the front of the car, right? So when it moves towards the front of the car, it's putting pressure onto these fingers. And when it does that, it's got like a diaphragm built into this housing here, right? So basically what it will do is it will push these fingers in this way, okay, which will pull this plate that way, right, which will disengage the clutch, if that makes sense. So when it's all together, your clutch has a spline, your clutch plate has a spline on it, so that sits in like that, right? So imagine this is rotating, yeah, with everything. So this bolts onto your flywheel. So then as you push the clutch in, pushes those fingers in, which pulls the diaphragm, and then the diaphragm disengages from this clutch surface, which thus stops the friction, and that's how you disengage, that's how your clutch works. So I'm going to try and compress these fingers for you to have a look at how it actually works. So I'm going to try and figure out how to do this. Okay, so I've got this clutch plate back onto the press. Now I've put a piece of metal, or like a cylinder bar, kind of like the throw-out bearing, looks very similar to the throw-out bearing, on top of this pressure plate on where the forks go. So I'm simulating the clutch being pushed in. So right now the clutch is disengaged. Okay? So what I want you to look at is right in here, look at this gap, okay? And I'm going to slowly release the pressure, and you'll see that the gap, that the light through here, you'll see this plate here, you'll see that go down, okay? So have a look. Okay, so you can see that has gone down, right? So now the clutch is engaged. So that's how it works. Okay. So as you can see, guys, this is what I did. So I put it on a press. Right, that's the press there. Put it on a press. Simulated the throw-out bearing pushing the forks in. Okay, and as you can see, when the forks go in, it pulls that plate back. Right, it pulls it that way, yeah, and then when it gets released, the plate goes that way and engages in the clutch. So that is how your clutch works, and that is how you engage and disengage the clutch, and that's actually what is going on inside your gearbox every time you put your foot on the clutch pedal. Great success. Alright guys, so back continuing off from where we were before. I had to wait half the day for my dad to come home because I needed the compressed air to tighten them. Now that they're tight, so our next step is don't forget to put your seal in. I've already put the seal in. When you put your rear main seal in, if you do need to do it, if you're just doing a clutch job, don't worry about it, because usually the seals are okay. You only replace it if you're leaking. Now I built the whole motor, as some of you know, so I replaced the seal. So just get some rubber grease, put it on the inside and the outside of the rubber seal, so the two surfaces are going to make contact with the crankshaft. Put a bit of rubber grease on the end of the crankshaft, and then that way when it goes in, you, as you know, you never go in dry, so it just eliminates the potentiality for anything to go wrong with it, like getting caught on anything because it's dry. So we put that in. Now we're going to clean this face. I've tightened these with the gun. We're going to clean this face, and then we're going to clean the face of the pressure plate, and then we're going to get our little gizmo here. It's our spigot tool that lines up. So we're going to line up our marks here, or not marks, we're going to line this up to get it nice and central. So I'll show you how to do that. And then we've done this, as you've seen, so that's good to go. And then once we've put our clutch on, then we're going to bolt her up, and then we're going to hook the gearbox in. Now this is a one-man army for me, so some of this stuff I won't be able to show you all of it, because I've got a $1,500 camera sitting under my car, and I don't want to have anything knock it or anything like that, so footage here is going to be limited, but I will be able to show you the things that you should need to know to do the clutch. So we'll see you in a moment. Oops. Alright guys, so I'm going to try and explain this to you. So we've got our tool here to line up the clutch, right? So I just want you to know all the bolts are in, the locating dowels are in for the clutch plate. There's 3, and then we've got 9 bolts that are in. They're not tight at all, they've just got a couple threads wound in. So if you can see this here, see that? That's the clutch plate, so I can move that, right? So if you were to go in and just bolt this up, you wouldn't get the clutch plate in the right spot. Okay, so this bit, it's got this spline lines up with the spline on the clutch, or in other words, it's a match for this spline here, and then this end fits into the end of the crankshaft, right? So it gives you a perfect central location. So I'll show you what we mean. So excuse me for the bad angles, because I got the gearbox right there, and it's a bastard to move. So we're just going to put our spigot tool in here, right? Now we're just going to wiggle this around and push in. So you see that? Push in, and now we can't really move this at all, really. Very, very marginal, right? Compared to how much movement we had before, we can really move that thing around. So this tool is actually sitting in the end of the crankshaft, and those spline teeth are lined up with the splines on the clutch plate. So that's how you line it up. So from here, we can go ahead and tighten all of our bolts gradually and evenly. It's very important to do it evenly. You don't want to wring one side's neck and then do the other side. Just do it nice and even. And then once you've done that, then you just pull this out, and then the pressure from all this will keep the clutch pushed on, and it won't move, and then that's it. That's how you install the clutch, and then we'll get onto the gearbox. So I will tighten these down, and then I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll move on to the gearbox. Alright guys, so we've got our bolts tight all the way around. You can see our clutch plate's nice and secure in there. Still got our spigot tool in there. So what we do is, now that it's tight, we literally just pull it out. And that is it. It's that easy. And then from here, now we can offer up the gearbox. Pain in the ass, but we can do it. Backyard mechanic can do anything. So we've got this, it's good. I'm going to put a little bit more grease just here. Don't go dry. We're good up here. All this is done. It's nice and tight, confident. So we've got our gearbox on the jack at the moment. We can't see the jack. Got a gearbox on the jack there. So I'm going to try and one-man army it up. Obviously, the more people you got, the easier it's going to be for you. So we're going to give it a go and see how we go. Alright guys, so from there all you have to do is just put the bolts into the bell housing, connect your drive shafts and a few other little bits and pieces like some clips I believe that go to the gearbox. There is a loom that goes to the gearbox. So from here guys we can move on to putting our drive shafts in, we can move on to putting our exhaust manifold on as well. We've got a bit of wiring that we need to tend to and a few other little bits and pieces all around the motor. So we're going to be able to move on to that now, which is awesome. So I'm going to just conclude this video right now. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, we will see you on the next one.
Did you like that little spinneroony?